Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Salt Grain Podcast. I am your host, Holly McNamara, and I am here in studio today with my boyfriend, Dan Smith, and we have a lot to talk about. Today is the 28th of April, 2024, just for the record. There's a lot that's been going on since my election. Now we're working on some new things that are coming down the pipeline to help the town because I have a lot of unfinished business that I can take care of. Unfortunately, I'm not a selectman, but I can still work on this unfinished business that the town has suffered from losing over the past 3 years. It's very hard to explain that to residents because so much has happened and a lot of it happened very quickly. So I'm going to continue to try to get this message out and to the residents. So we just have some interesting stories to tell as well. These are more for entertainment today, but I'm going to continue to get the message out with some fun stories and some facts and stuff like that. So we're playing music in the background just in case anyone's wondering what that is. So we have a kind of a list of some things that have come up recently that just aren't good for the town. So we'll get into that next. But before we get into that, we're going to tell you a story about a couple. We're not using any names. We're calling the couple JC. Don't read into it, but that's just what we're calling them. And the man and a woman, no names. They were two people that are from, they're transplants. They're not from Somerset. They're very involved in the community. I won't say in what, but they're very involved. They flip-flop sides. And I met them because I was in office, and the wife would come to almost every single selectman meeting. And my first impression of her was annoying. I was very annoyed. But you have to give everyone a chance. But every single time she spoke, it was very annoying. Like, her questions were annoying. They were uninformed, but to the public, it could seem smart because she presents herself pretty well and she's well spoken. But to someone that's sitting in the selectman seat that knows what's going on, it's annoying. And, I try to gently help get her answers and, answer her questions or whatever it was. And she also came to meetings when, with the new, she was the only one that came. I mean, good for her, but she came to this meeting that it was related to the permitting of the new dispensary grow facility in town. I don't want to mention their name either, but she came to it and she asked so many annoying questions, and we all had to wait until she was done because we were ready to leave. Like, everything was done. The permit was ready. Everything was checked. And it was meant for the public, but she was literally the only one that came. And I'm like, oh my God. And the questions were just, there was no need to ask them. They're normal questions. I can't explain it. But anyway, that was my whole first impression. The husband at times would kind of be similar to that. And sometimes they seem to be on the right side of things, like the good, that most good people support with no agenda. But some of their opinions were, they didn't have the right facts. They were misinformed, intelligent people. Because they're well spoken, they're educated, they have great careers, whatever. But misinformed, intelligent people. Best way I can describe them. And so Dan and I'm going to let Dan tell you his side first because we both have the same story, but I want to hear it from Dan because so they, over time, I met them at like a social event at someone's house, and I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to them. I just didn't want to talk to them. Like, it was just like, I don't want anyone asking me selectman questions right now. Like, but that's what ended up happening. So I just kept drinking my wine. And I sat with the husband for like an hour, and we had a great conversation. I was like, all right, it's fine. So I gave him a chance again, and I'm like, you know what? I'm trying. And I don't wear it on my sleeve when it comes to that. I'm trying to be professional. And even though I'm in a social setting, it's like, I'm trying so hard to give them a chance. So we had a great conversation, even though I was kind of like, because the host was like telling him like, hey, no politics at this party. But sure enough, he brings it up. But anyway, it was fine. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're not as bad. I just needed to talk to them one-on-one. And so time goes on, like they get more involved, and I stay in touch with them. And it's great that people want to be involved. They're involved in various things, and they get more and more involved. You can tell they care about the community, or at least they care about something. And I'm not sure if it's genuine or not yet. I'm not convinced. And so both of them became big supporters of mine. And they were awesome. Like, you know, we just became became friendlier, and we weren't super close friends, I would say, but it was a very good working relationship. We get along great. So I'm like, you know what? I just had to give them some chances, and it's fine. It's just my opinion. It doesn't matter, because I want to get along. I want to work with everyone for the greater good of the community. And it was good. I'm like, okay, we can all get along. Everything's great. So then they invite Dan and me to dinner at their home. Gorgeous home. Historic. Beautiful. They invite us to dinner. And we were like, oh, that's so nice of you. Like, what prompted this? They were just like, well, you know, I won't get into when it was, but it was several years ago. And they invited us, and we're like, yeah, that's great. Like, it'll be a nice, relaxing, quiet, private evening. Like, Dan and I, at this point, we didn't like going out much because people judge you, or you don't know who's watching, and they, you know, take pictures and they judge you, and then they spread rumors. And then I had been like verbally attacked so much and bullied so much. And I think at that point, I wasn't assaulted yet. So at that point I was like, not really. We just weren't even going out in public, and I wasn't even assaulted yet. So kind of tells you how bad it was, and the bullying and stuff. And like, I'm the type of person, like I used to run my class reunions. I would get everyone home when I'd fly home from California. I'd be the one getting everyone together. I love everyone. And at this point in my life, I am the least social person that I know. All I wanted to do was stay home and do nothing. Like, I don't drink when I'm alone. So like, there wasn't a lot of drinking. I actually lost weight. But anyway, so I was in that space where I was like, I'm only associating with people I trust. And at this point, they had earned my trust. Right? So I'm like, okay, let's go to dinner. And Dan agreed. He's like, yeah, let's do that. It'll be great. In someone's private home, beautiful home, really nice, classy dinner. Very high end. I mean, we were waited on by someone. We'll explain that when Dan tells the story. We were waited on, and it was like so elegant. And we were there for 8 hours. Dan reminded me of this. I didn't remember the time, but we were there for 8 hours. That's not normal, but it was, at the beginning of it was amazing. So anyway, Dan, do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, we could throw pieces of it together, I think.
Yeah.
So let's start it out outside.
Yeah.
We went inside and then took a quick, I think it was a small tour of just the kitchen and whatever. And what looked to be like a chef or somebody preparing foods, and he was being acknowledged, and
he wasn't saying anything. He's just doing.
Yeah, it just seemed like a professional outfit, like someone maybe she hired to serve. She wouldn't have to deal with it. That's what it sounded like to me. So then we went back outside, and there was some nice chairs overlooking the.
Don't say what. Don't say what it overlooks.
Yeah. So
it's fine.
Just overlooking, and it was a nice. It was a nice thing. There some appetizers. I think we had some drinks and a couple of summer type spritzers or whatever.
They
it was.
were awesome.
Yeah,
like
it was really really nice. I don't know which way we want me to go with this. So after that was done, go ahead. You can go.
Okay. So we sat on this patio and had hors d'oeuvres, like Dan said, appetizers, and we were literally waited on by this guy, and we're like, "Are you kidding? This is amazing!" Like they have a chef, and they were just like bossing him around. So Dan and I were like, "Wow, like this is so incredible." We had a great conversation. We did talk about politics. It's mostly what we talked about the whole time. It was incredible, blown away, and I'm like, "Wow." Like, why are they doing this? Like, I don't understand. I mean, it was great, but we were just like, why?
No, so keep telling the story. So we went in from the outside.
But still, so yeah.
Went in from the outside, and we sat down in the dining room for the actual dinner, I think, and got refill our wine glasses. And, it was at that point, you had a 2, maybe 3 glasses of wine, and everybody's opening up and getting a little loosey-goosey, right? So, and I'm like, and then all of a sudden, the guy started talking to us. He served our meals, and then he sat there and watched. And we're like, "Oh my God, he's
the chef that we thought was
the chef." And I'm like, "Whoa." And then you were talking politics with the couple, JC, and
we were talking to them for like 3 hours of politics. I mean, like a long fucking time,
and a lot of not delicate information,
still,
but it was information that.
From behind the
a little
doors.
bit behind the scenes, so we felt comfortable enough to say these things to this couple.
Yeah, and not even just like it wasn't necessarily like information we weren't supposed to be telling anyone, because I can't tell even Dan some stuff. It wasn't that kind of stuff, but it was like just like the backstory of like how things happened and personally, like our personal lives. We were opening up about how it feels to be a selectman and like. As a couple and so public facing, and we told them some very sensitive stories about us and just our lives and how it relates to the role and then we did start talking about our like strong feelings on very political polarizing issues in town,
and even some names came up.
Oh, lots of names,
because we didn't know who they knew or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
but we were forthright, and we were like, "Oh, because we trusted them."
Right. It was this person and that person, and they were taking it all in, and like, what?
3 hours of that, at least. Yep. So
you go ahead.
So we're eating, and I'm like, let's say I'm here, and Dan's across from me, and the couple's on either side of like in between us. On my right is the kitchen. And it's like a bar height counter that faces us. So when the guy was in there cooking, he would see us when we were talking and eating and, drinking as he was cooking and cleaning or whatever. So he heard every single word we said for these 3 hours or whatever it was. And he was dead silent, like just doing his job, which I thought was his job. So this guy... We're talking like 3 drinks deep, telling them a lot of stuff and blah, 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 blah. And suddenly the guy, unbeknownst to me, was several beers deep.
Whiskey.
It was whiskey. I didn't know that. Okay, they're even worse. And I didn't know it. And we didn't see him do this, but he came around the counter and sat in the dining area with us and listened to every word like an audience, like sat in the corner of the room in this random chair that was decorative sitting there. And he was hammered. And the reason why I know this is because around the 3.5 hour mark or 3 hour mark, I bet it was 3.5. I don't know. It was a long fucking time. We talked about a lot of things. Suddenly this guy, out of the blue, pipes up and gives his opinion. Well, I fucking think ba 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 ba, and we're like, what? And I look over. I'm like, he's in the what? Wait, he's in the corner and he's trashed.
Well, we knew he was in the corner. We could see him, but the problem was we thought that he was observing and keeping track of what the next course was or whatever it may be.
For a split second, I thought that, but then I'm like, whoa, wait, this is not, because he had an opinion on Somerset politics, and I'm like, this is not a hired chef. Who the fuck is this guy? Or what? And how does he have opinion? If he's a hired help, he's not going to talk about Somerset politics. Oh. So I'm like, whoa, wait a second. So he's drinking on the job. He's trashing people on the job. He's talking shit on the job. He's mingling with his clients. Like, what the fuck? So then Dan and I tell each other later, like, we then realize, like, oh my God, I almost threw up. I was like, oh my God, who is that? He heard everything we talked about. I feel so violated. Like, my privacy felt violated. Dan and I both felt our privacy was violated. We had talked about so many fucking personal things.
So yeah, hold on. So get to the, so he listened to everything and he said an opinion and he was slurring his speech.
Yes.
Very much.
Yeah. And he was loud.
And he was, being loud and a little bit animated and throwing hands in the, and we're looking at each other like, who is this guy? So
oh my God.
It ended up.
Well, then he goes, yeah, I sit down at this place. I won't say the place. I sit down at this place with these guys every week and we call ourselves the blah, blah, blah. And we have this group and we gossip every week about Somerset politics and we tell each other this and that and this and that and that. And then we tell everyone. And I'm like, ooh, I felt so fucking violated. I was like, who is this fucking guy? And now everything that I just talked about for 3.5 hours is now going to be all over the town because of this, whoever this guy is. So I didn't even know who he was until the end of the night.
Well, at that point, what kept going, we were at dessert, I think, and then we still being a little bit loud and aggressive, and I started to kind of I was kind of on guard at that point.
I was nervous.
And I'm like, what's going on here? And he seemed a little bit off. Like he seemed, my camera. He seemed like he could have become maybe violent at some point.
Yes, he was a very aggressive personality.
The personality. And then, so that's what I was worried about the most.
Yeah. So we won't get into the details of who he is, but let's just say he is related to one of the people. And he lives there. So that was nice to know at the end instead of the beginning. So anyway,
going back to the beginning, she treated him at
like
the
help.
Beginning, like hired help.
Yeah.
So we were completely thrown off.
Oh, she did. It was like there was no name. It was do this, do that, now, this, that, whatever. Don't talk. She actually said, "Don't. That's enough."
Mm-hmm.
And we're, what the fuck? Is she talking to the help? Like, couldn't. But yeah, it was a relative of one of theirs, and they lived there, and that's what they do. This relative does that for their guests. Mm-hmm. So anyway, these people, JC couple, they, I don't even know how to, so, I mean, to repeat what Dan said, we were there for 8 hours. That's a long time. So it goes back to like, why did they want to have us over so much? Why this big night? Like, we were just skeptical, but we loved it. We were like, you know what? These are great people. They're obviously like well off and they're kind, and we had great conversations, but it was still just such a strange thing. So later on, one of them joined this committee. I won't say which one. And over the span of about, I think maybe a year, almost every single one of those committee members left because of this person, one of the couple members. So this person shoved out because of their attitude and their aggression and their feeling relevant. And I should have started the episode with this quote. I saw a quote yesterday, and it's by T.S. Eliot. And it is, most of the trouble in this world is caused by people wanting to be important. That hit home because that is politically what we've been dealing with. The general public doesn't understand because they haven't been in this seat before. I wouldn't have understood until I'd been in the seat. But you have people that push their opinions on to the public, and people just from the public just pushing and pushing and pushing these agendas, and it's like, why? That's why that quote. These people need to feel important,
relevant.
And for so long I didn't get it. I was like, why are these people doing this? Why would they do that? Why would they fight this? Why would they fight that? Why? Like, this is all good stuff. Like, why? And this is why. It's the quote. They need to feel important. That's exactly why. So now we're trying to piece this story together. So, because it all ties together with the other stories we're going to tell. And these people, it's like a deeply rooted psychological issue. Whether it's from an upbringing or some type of trauma or whatever. And all they do, their argument for everything is, Holly has a mental health problem. No, that's not, that's not an argument for anything. But anyway, so it all ties together. So the couple, one of the members of the couple, JC, like I said, drove all these people out of this committee. They all quit, all of them. And she's still in charge of it. Fine. But no, everyone left. Everybody left. And most of the people on that committee are peaceful, not political people. They're just very kind people. They're not trying to be in the public eye. They don't, but this person just, I don't know. It was so bad. And throughout, and that was just one thing. So then this couple continues to go to meetings and be annoying. And I'm like, they're just obnoxious. And I'm like, oh my God. And sometimes they supported good things. Sometimes they did. But then they were teetering on that conspiracy theory kind of out there agenda. And they would consider it. And I'm like, oh, that's not stable. I don't trust that. So, and they became annoying again. And I'm like, oh my God, I was right. My first impression was right. Because they started to associate and affiliate strongly, very strongly, with the Save Our Bay people. Yep. I mean, very publicly, too. They didn't feel bad about it. But we had different conversations. They did not like them. They were against them, Save Our Bay. And, they were, speaking about how they don't support them. And we aligned on everything. When we talked and we had that dinner, we aligned on everything. And, I was appreciative at that point. Oh my God, I'm glad they're involved now. They're not who I thought they were. Well, that changed again. And it went back to my original first impression was correct. So, and now it's full blown. They're just involved, and it's not, it appears to be good, but trust me, it's not. That committee got disbanded. That was an excellent committee. There's other stuff that they're roadblocking with the new selectmen. They're stealing ideas from past people that have been fired, and they're using them as their own. They're throwing their weight around, and it's not good. It's not good for the town, right?
Right. I'm plugging my phone in.
Oh, good. So I just, we had to tell that story because we don't get to tell people these things. Oddly enough, we're talking about this on an open podcast, but our life is very private. But I think now, like, we're at the point where some of these stories we can share comfortably.
Yeah.
Because people will understand things more. Like, they don't understand why I fight for X, Y, and Z, and I think, and you're part of that. Like, you've done so much. So it's like, and you've supported me too. And like, so I feel like these stories are important. And that's why we're here. Otherwise, they're also entertaining.
Getting back to the story, traditionally, a dinner date or dinner appointment or whatever you want to call it is, around 4 hours tops.
Yes.
From arrival to departure. We were there way too long. And
yes.
and the more they drank and the more we drank and the more it was getting weird and
we wanted to leave, actually.
I had
before.
my jacket on for like 2 hours.
You did?
Yeah, we just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, I'm going to show you around the house some more." And I don't more? Okay, I saw enough of your home. So it started to the point where I said, I had my coat on and it was ridiculously warm at one point, and I'm like sweating and I'm like walking through this house.
Because we kept thinking we were leaving because it was insanely long.
And then we're in the basement looking at a something or other, and I'm like, I don't want to be here. It's midnight now. We've been here 7+ hours. Let's go. I want to go home.
Yeah.
No idea in the house where I was.
Yeah.
And eventually it was, kept talking and talking and talking. I said, this has got to stop. This has got to end at some point. And eventually we, found our way outside.
Oh, it was, oh my God. I think at one point you had to go to the bathroom so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to go home, and you get to the point where, when you're a guest in a house, okay, let them have their hospitality, and they did a decent job, but it was ridiculously long.
But it goes back to why, like what, why did they want us there so much? Just us, like there was no one else invited,
and the guy was still walking around the house with us because apparently he was a relative. We didn't know that. We didn't know he lived there. And we're talking to somebody in the community that we didn't know we were talking about. And I feel like that was just, it was a slimy thing to do.
Slimy as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if it's intentional, but it doesn't matter. It's fucked. It's weird.
Yeah, it's morally wrong, and they can't see that.
Right.
Yeah. Or they knew what they were doing the whole time.
Oh, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. So it was either that, one of the two.
Yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
They're uninformed, intelligent people.
But they wanted dirt.
They wanted dirt.
They wanted dirt. That's what the meeting was about. They wanted dirt.
They wanted the dirt so they could going back to this quote, could feel important.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to sit with the selectman and her boyfriend and talk about private things and, get the dirt and feel important.
And that's what it was.
That's what's happening. And it's a trend with most of these types of folks. And it is dangerous. And it's hurting the town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about... let's talk about the Friends of Somerset Historic Preservation.
Faux shit.
Faux shit, we call it. That sounds weird, but right around 2017, my first year in office, I wanted to see the crazy old white building. I didn't know much about it. I didn't know anything about it, actually. I wanted to know why it said Swansea on it. And I was just elected, so they had the Historical Society was giving tours Oh, actually, no. I asked to have a tour myself. I wanted to see the inside just because. And I remembered one of the articles in my first town meeting was arguing over the price of replacing the roof. And I'm like, what is this building? It's so controversial. Like, why don't we just replace the roof? Like, everyone's fighting over splitting hairs. And, oh, it's too much. Well, it has to be a certain price because municipalities' procurement process is complicated and you have to follow these. There's all sorts of things that make it expensive. It just is what it is, but you need to replace the roof, clearly. But I'm like, what is this building? So I asked the Historical Society if they could give me a tour. And they did. They were awesome. Gave me a tour. It was so old. It was built in 1701. 1701. Before the formation of the United States of America. And it's the Quaker Meeting House. And the reason why it says Swansea Friends Meeting House is because Somerset was once part of Swansea. We were an area called Shawamut. We weren't Somerset yet. We were part of Swansea, so technically it was in Swansea. But when Somerset incorporated in 1790, that stayed in Somerset. So it's a Quaker Meeting House, built in 1701. It's on the National Historic Register, which is incredible. And it's falling apart. They don't want to fucking replace the roof. Why? So I go and I take this tour and I'm like, oh, cool. So I posted some pictures online and all these people were commenting, where is that? What is it? I want to go. What is this? What is that? I'm like, oh my God, all these people want a tour. Like, I'll set up a tour. So I set up a tour. And then probably like 25 people came. And I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea this many people were interested. This is so cool. So then I posted the pictures from that tour and more people were like, where is that? What is it? Oh my God, I want to see blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh my God, I need to set up another tour. So I set up another tour and 75 people came to this tour. And I'm like, oh my God. So Marianne McDonald is she's now our town historian. She's incredible. And she's a beloved retired teacher from our community. Dan had her in class. She is now the chair of the Friends of Somerset Historic Preservation, which I'm getting to explain right now. So she gave this tour, and it was such a great tour. And I took more pictures, and then more people were commenting. I'm like, I can't keep setting up tours. What am I going to do? And on that tour, someone gave me a $500 check and said, I don't know who to make this out to, but I want this to go towards the renovation and restoration of this building. And I'm like, I can't give it to the town because then where does it go? Like, where does it go? How are we sure to allocate these funds to this building? So Marianne and I met and we were like, what are we going to do? I'm like, we got to start a nonprofit. That's it. And I wanted to make sure that the nonprofit wouldn't overlap with the Historical Society because the Historical Society is very important. So, and also the Historical Commission, which is also very important. And we didn't want to interfere with them. We wanted to work with them. So what we did was we formed the Friends of Somerset Historic Preservation as a tripod. So we have FOSHIP, we have the Historical Society, and we have the Historical Commission that all work together with the town. It's a town building. The Quakers gave it to Somerset in 2010, I believe, for $1. And so that's a huge honor. And I was like, how has nothing been done in a decade? Or no, it hadn't been that long. But nothing, it was a decade. So it was before 2010. It was 2006, I think. So I said, how has nothing been done in a decade for this amazing structure that's so historic? Like, are you kidding me? And some guy just gave me $500. Like, can we do something? Why is everyone arguing about the roof? Like, just do the roof. What is the problem? Oh my God. So, God, I haven't told this story. So, Marianne and I are like, all right. so we started a nonprofit, and she's the chairwoman, and there's a board, and we meet regularly still. And we fundraised, and we had galas every year. They were huge galas, like 200 people on the Bluffs, which is also a very historic site in Somerset, overlooking the Taun River. We would raise so much money. We raised $22,000 in sponsorships and about $10,000 over that every year. So there were people in the town. We were like, oh my God, they care about the history. It's so, and I cared about it, but I thought I was just a sentimental person, overly sentimental. But we were like, oh my God, we're raising so much money. So we were so excited. We're still excited. And we continued. So long story short, we created this. We also created an official voted on document agreement between FOSHIP and the town to be sure that any restoration of any building or structure or landmark, like a stone wall in the town, has to come through FOSHIP and Mary Ann McDonald, the town historian. So that's an official thing now. And we created that, and we're so proud of it. And so we had these galas, and every year we'd have a new theme. We had the 1800s, like the formation of the community and the founders of Somerset. We had a 50s theme, the old theater, and which I'm getting to this point, Shirley May France and the English Channel. We had a 20s theme, like a Great Gatsby. So every year we would talk about Somerset's history during that decade. And we had costumes. Everyone dressed in costumes. It was a costume party for that decade. And we'd have a presentation done at these galas. We'd have people acting whatever the time period is for something related to Somerset history. And you saw that, Dan. I mean, you went to the 50s one. Mm-hmm. And it's like it was a whole event. It was so amazing. We'd have a movie night for kids on the Bluffs. And those drew in a few hundred people sometimes. We had popcorn machines. We had music. We had a string quartet play from the high school. It was just like the best. And the year of the 50s, we honored Shirley May France, who was from Somerset. Amazing woman. She attempted twice to swim the English Channel, 49 and 50. She did not complete her mission. But she's a huge part of Somerset's history, and she should be honored, right? And so fast forward to now, and these people that need to feel important, so I'm reminding you, like, this Quaker Meeting House stuff and Shirley May France and this event that we had was in 2019, a big, huge gala, one of the galas for FOSHIP. Well, anyway, fast forward to now, this week, one of the people from Zavar Bay claims that they received a $2,000 donation. She didn't say from who. To go towards a statue of Shirley May France in town, which is wonderful. Let's do it. It's a great idea. Whoever's idea it was is perfect. But them giving it to Anita to announce, someone who bullies everyone, who has heckled people in voting lines, who has videotaped relatives of hers putting on good events for seniors, who she's just a whore. She showed up at our home sale and she got kicked out because she was there to be nosy. And I told my agent, kick anyone out that's there to be nosy. She showed up at the last minute by herself, pretending to be there for business.
She came in as a realtor without a client.
Without a client.
I said, get out of here.
Get the fuck out of here. And my agent said, ma'am. And she's like, I'm coming in. And my agent said, no, you're not. You can leave now. And my agent said, well, it's over. You're here at the exact hour. And she said, well, I need to come in and I'm allowed to be here. And my agent said, no, you're not, ma'am. The owner has very strict instructions that you're not allowed to be here. So you can leave now. And she said, well, and she does have a license. So, well, my agent said, do you have a client? Where's your client? Where's their pre-approval letter? And she was like, well, I mean, I don't know. I can get a client. And my agent's like, you don't have a client. You're being nosy. You're not allowed in. And she flips out and goes, I'm going to report you, blah, 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 blah. And my agent's like, oh, good God, go right ahead, report, whatever that means. And she tried to report her. It went nowhere because it's nothing, and she's an asshole. And I'll use that word again. And she won't like it. But here she is presenting this week this $2,000. I'm pretty sure I know where it came from. But to give it to Anita to present it is gross. They make up these things with each other to make themselves feel important. With Alan Smith, the new selectman, and Anita and this other person working together. Here's a great project. This would be something that would make you look really good in this community. Mm-hmm. Why don't you present it? Because you're viewed as a terrible person in town. Maybe you could redeem yourself with this. Mm-hmm. Go fuck yourself. Like, you never cared. You did not come to any of these, including Alan and Anita, did not come to any of these events 5 fucking years ago when we gave a shit. And we still give a shit. But you guys
still just trying to be relevant.
Are doing it to feel important and to find something good to make people like you. And it's not for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And you all know that it's very supported. Those types of projects are very, very beloved in our town. We're all very sentimental. We love our roots. But you're using that for yourself. And that I cannot stand. I cannot stand it. Mm-hmm. And we're going to tell you in the next story, which Dan's going to tell you, about the recent 2 weeks ago, there was a meeting, less than that. And there's a propane tank, and these same people that we've been talking about, Sabre Bay, they're fighting this project. So, Dan, you tell it better.
I just read the post on Our Town. I think I spend a little more time on there than you do, so it came across. It was hard to miss because as I was scrolling, it was just a big ball of flames on the bottom of the picture. So it kind of caught my attention. And I said, I'll have to read this. And then I saw Pat McDonald's name. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this ought to be really good. So, yeah. Oh, you want me to read it? Oh, yeah. So, his post said, which is a public post, so it doesn't matter. So the first thing he said was, and it caught my eye out, obviously, with the fire and the flames and all this other stuff. So Clifton Nursing Home is directly across the street from the new Santoro Oil, formerly Wilkinson, on Wilbur Ave. For decades, there has been a 1,000-gallon propane tank that was used to refill small residential propane tanks. At tonight's zoning board meeting, Santoro Oil is requesting a special permit to install a 30,000-gallon underground propane tank at the property. Come out and say no if you live near this facility or have a loved one in Clifton.
I can't.
It's such fear-mongering among, it's just ridiculous. Look, I care, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't care about the residents at Clifton, but there's been a company there with propane tanks for many years, and there could have been accidents. There has not been. And the regulations are even higher.
Yes.
They're so much higher now. And
they're not throwing a random plastic drum in the ground.
Right. So watch the video. He says watch the video here, and what it looks like when a 30,000-gallon propane tank explodes. The town should never risk the health and safety of our most vulnerable residents.
Oh, come on. So he's using the nursing home to be for his agenda. To fight something. Why is he fighting it? Why? It goes back to why. Why is he fighting this fucking tank? Leave them alone. Let the business be. And then then we don't want our small businesses, or I don't know how big they are, but we don't want any of our businesses to have to go through hoops unnecessarily.
Yeah, well, they're just using fear and safety and the environment. They're all using it as a segue to get what they want here in town.
Which is to feel important. They don't want anything. There's nothing specific that they want. They want to be involved and feel relevant to this quote. It's the same fucking thing. Right.
So with that said, to use your emotions and fears to get your attention it's awful. I can't believe people actually do this stuff.
I know.
To get their agenda passed or whatever. So a resident here in town, I'm going to go to the next comment. Pointed out that if you notice, that video was from 1980. Today's regulations make that underground tank very safe.
Yes.
Maybe you forgot the video of the house exploding in Rhode Island Ave from a natural gas leak a few years back. You should be more concerned about the pipes running down underground under your own street.
Yep.
Which is a great point. And then somebody else also pointed out that the video is from like the 1980s, and it's not an underground tank that like they were proposing. That was a tank car being pulled by a train, and it exploded. That was the picture he took. So that's why you say, "Oh my God, he's using fear and these big blasts, these big explosions, as it's going to happen in front of Clifton and kill everybody in the building."
Oh, stop!
It's ridiculous. So he also pointed out that you're trying to get people worried for nothing.
Yes,
and that's exactly what we're trying to make a point of here. There's a 2 million gallons of LNG sitting on Bay Street in Fall River, 100 yards away from Three Deckers. We get a tour of that facility every few years. There are so many safety factors built into these systems nowadays, which is another great point.
Yeah.
He said that he should. Somebody else commented that he should be more worried about the 20-pound barbecue propane tank under his own grill.
It's true.
So, it is true. But that's pretty much it.
What about the regulations, though?
Oh,
swipe to the next one.
Yeah,
next two.
So I'll just read this. It was highlighted in here in the article I found here. Underground propane tanks must be buried deep enough, typically at least 18 to 24 inches beneath the soil surface, to ensure compliance with the local regulations and codes. To deter rust and corrosion, underground propane tanks must have cathodic protection. And cathodic protection is basically it's a method that uses external source to apply a DC electrical current to the propane tank, which prevents corrosion reaction from occurring. So it protects the tank while it's sitting underground from corrosion and typical corrosion.
Yeah.
So they know. So they know what they're doing. Cathodic protection is a unique used to control the corrosion of a metal surface by making it a cathode of an electrochemical cell. Which these were all terms that I didn't know, and I know Pat McDonald is not a propane expert.
No.
So he's not out there. It's just ridiculous what he's trying to do, and it's so obvious, and I just have to say something. This guy is using fear to get the residents shaken up about a possibility, and he's posting tanks on trains blowing up to get you worried. This is exactly what they do at Save Our Bay. This is them.
Well, and that's who they elected just now, Alan Smith.
Alan Smith,
their founder.
Grab this.
So we're just trying to point out the fear-mongering that's happening behind the veil of your current new selectman, Alan Smith. Mm-hmm. That's what's happening. And the same person, Pat McDonald, got up at 2 selectmen meetings ago and said, we are going to appeal every decision made related to Prismian. I have to get the clip. But yes, they're going to appeal everything and slow everything down.
All your taxes go up.
Yeah, and you can't blame me. I'm not there. You can't blame me. It's coming.
You still get blamed.
I will, yeah. I don't care. So yeah, that was another huge thing. And the other thing that your new selectman's doing is, I'm sure you've read about it, is trying to pull off an underride, which I'm not good at explaining it technically. I never have been. But I know that it's bad, and it also restricts the town even more. It gives the optics of control. It has optics of like controlling the budget and being frugal, but that's not what it's doing. It's choking out the town basically, financially. So we can't do anything without a Prop 2.5 override for the most part. That will cause absolute chaos. The 100 or so people out of the 18,000 that go to town meeting, which are all the naysayers and all the Save Our Bay people, the only ones that show up, they're going to go to town meeting and try to approve this. And they're all, if this goes through, this underride, then the community at town meeting, every single time there's a tax increase, when you're going to need for the most part, a 2.5 override, which these people will go to town meeting and vote it down. So we can't do anything. We can't change our budget contractually. Like, we can't fulfill our contractual obligations. We're going to have police, fire, like everybody is going to start leaving. And there's already been a mass exodus. So we're going to be left with nothing. Trust me. Don't do it. But that's what's happening. And Alan didn't mention this once in his campaign. And that's why, because he knows it's not popular. But that's what he wanted to do.
He didn't want to jeopardize the results of the election.
And instead, he lied. Like someone said to me yesterday, Holly, there's no way you could have won because you don't lie. And they do. You cannot compete with someone that literally would lie to Jesus Christ himself, his face. Mm-hmm. And she's right. Like, compete. You can't. And Alan lied through his teeth. I'm going to give everyone an $1,100 tax rebate. Tax savings, whatever the words were. Bullshit. It's mathematically impossible.
Right. Pull $6.5 million out your ass, Alan.
Yeah, we'll have no town left. Mm-hmm. Do the math. And Prismian's not even bringing in that much the first decade. So do the math. Every year, the town, due to cost of living, contractual obligations, at the minimum goes up about $2.1 million. Prismian's only bringing in like half that, 1.5, a little more than half, for the next 6 to 10 years. Mm-hmm. So where are you getting the $6.5 million from? Because that's a negative number.
No.
2.5 going out, 1.5 coming in. That doesn't
promises.
That's not $6.5 million. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to cut town hall, police, the entire department, police, fire, town hall, highway. Maybe then you'll have $6.5 million. So, anyway, but it's again. Most of the trouble in the world is caused by people wanting to be important. That's it. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna bark up that tree. I'm gonna toot the horn, whatever you call it. I'm gonna keep repeating this because, understandably, most normal, intelligent people cannot believe that this shit happens in a small town or in any town. It affects the country. It affects all of us. Because we're all a little like a microcosm of the bigger picture. So it's so important to have this conversation because it's happening everywhere. It's not just Somerset. And it's people wanting to feel important. Social media has made it worse. I just think it's so important to find a way. We have to adapt and change the way we do business, change the way we govern, and find a way to keep good people involved because they're all leaving in droves because these people need to feel important and they're imposing their terrible agenda that's all about them and getting reelected. That's all it's about. You know, I'm not trying to get reelected. I'm here after losing pretty bigly I got a lot of votes, but I lost by a lot. I got as many votes as one of the other selectmen got when he won. So I'm happy with the amount of votes I got in the short amount of time that I campaigned. I did a, shitty job getting out my message right away. I thought I had to wait, which was so stupid, but it's fine. I'm still here. That's my point. I'm still here. I'm not trying to get elected. I'm here because Dan and I both care and we want to live here. Like Dan he told me like, oh, pick your top 5 places to live. I couldn't think of anything. And I'm like, what? Because I've lived in amazing places already and I don't want to retire. I don't want to be there. I want to be home. This is my home. So I want to stay and I want it to be the best. I want to travel, but I want this to be my home. So I'm here trying to spread a message with Dan.
Well, I wanted you to point out as well that we don't own a home here right now.
Right.
And our taxes aren't going up. They're, we don't have property taxes. We don't own a home.
Yeah, we're not trying to keep taxes down for our benefit.
No.
We're trying to help everyone.
It's not. And, we don't have kids in the school system. It's just not the way it is. It's not, we're still here.
There's no agenda.
Trying to help fix things that people are missing.
Yeah, the only agenda is to better the community for everyone because we want to stay too. Mm-hmm. Everyone that wants to stay. Like, if everyone leaves, we're not going to have a community anymore. Mm-hmm. And that makes me sad. Mm-hmm. I've been crying about it. So stupid. I've been crying about it. I mean, I always said I see the town as a person. Like, I don't want it to go to shit. I don't know. I think we covered everything.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, there's more to talk about, but I think we're good.
Yeah, for a quick episode, we did touch on a few things that were important to us.
Yeah, they're important. Yeah. Awesome. Well, everyone, keep your eyes peeled, and I hope you're listening. Spread the love, spread the word, share the love. Spread the word. It's very important. Mm-hmm. I know this shit back here is all silly, but because you got to laugh. Yeah. But this is serious. Really serious.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're not gonna stop either.
No,
we're gonna keep going.
No, it's part of our life.
Yeah, just gotta get the message out to.
Yeah, and we're still gonna have a life separate from it. We live.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be consuming like it does for those other people. It consumes them. You see them. That's all they talk about. Like I said, the first story that I told this episode, like that's all they talk about. It's all they care about. They come in, whether they're transplants or not. There are people here that like have nothing else to do, and they're obsessed with feeling important. It goes back to the quote. They're obsessed with it, mm-hmm. And it sucks because like I can get along with anyone that I want to get along with. Like I can, and I love people, but they make it so hard, mm-hmm. And you have to draw the line, and that's why they hate me, because I'm drawing the line in the sand. I fucking had enough. I've had enough. I've had it. I've had enough. And I'm not going to roll over. But I'm not going to let you walk all over me either. Mm-hmm. Or you. I'm not going to let them walk all over you either. Or anyone in my family. Or anyone in the community. Like the good people. Like I can't. Oh my God. I could go on way too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's why we're here. That's all.
That's all.
We'll be back.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. The Salt Green is a podcast where politicians stop pandering and start getting real. This podcast is me, Holly McNamara, various co-hosts and guests. Our post-production is done by Pixella Films. For more content and all social media links, you can find us on thesaltgrain.com. Thank you for joining us while we take you into our world of public service, and be sure as always to take everything with a grain of salt.